I'm Bruce A. Parr, and you're watching Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog. Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog is brought to you by Chase Media Group, publisher of The Penny Saver and provider of multimedia marketing solutions for an omni-channel marketplace. And an omni-channel marketplace, every so often I like to clarify, is something you all know about, even if you don't know that particular term. And it's just that in today's world of digital media, we have, of course, print, and we have mobile phones, and we have the web, and all kinds, social media, and all kinds of media channels that we learn things about, and advertising goes through it, and information goes through all these channels. And as you know, these days, when you go through the day, you'll notice yourself and everybody else constantly checking your mobile phone and sitting at a computer, and that's what omnichannel refers to. And our company is involved in creating content and marketing through all those channels. And I always like to thank our CEO, Carla Chase, and my occasional co-host, Frank J. Rich, for producing the show and bringing us not only into your TV screen, but also into your computer or mobile device or tablet through YouTube. And you can check all the shows by searching on YouTube for Townlink TV. And if you're new to the show, we have on every episode really interesting guests from the community, from the local community, who are making unique and valuable contributions to our quality of life. And I'm really excited about what we're going to be talking about for the next 30 minutes, because it's something that I'm extremely interested in, and I've even started to dabble in it myself. And that is talking about acting and theater with my friend Michael Muldoon of M&M Performing Arts. And Michael and I, we got to know each other a bunch of years ago when I started doing this, and I know you've been doing it along with your wife, Melinda O'Brien, for quite a long time. How many years has it been, actually?
I've been involved in theater, it seems, all my life. But originally, I worked, like most actors, in municipal bond insurance.
Right, I mean, that's the natural path, isn't it?
It's a natural segue to the performing arts. And I had once thought of myself as an actor, and then at other times as a performing artist. But really, I think what I am, and I'll be quite frank with you, is a conduit of human emotion.
Okay. Yeah, I understand what you're saying now that I've gotten involved with it. That's really what it's about, isn't it? It's conveying or I don't know, reflecting human emotion.
Yeah, what we're trying to do is give people the human experience distilled into an hour-and-a-half format, so that we can all experience the joys and the sorrows of life. If you see real life, it's kind of boring.
Yes,
but when you see it distilled, it's endlessly fascinating.
Right, and that's one of, I find, as a very much of a neophyte actor, I find that's one of the revelations, and at the same time one of the challenges, as I've taken acting classes and done local theater, which we'll of course talk about.
And you are quite good, I have to say. After having seen you in a number of productions, congratulations to you.
No, I enjoy it too. It's it's a lot of fun.
Isn't it?
But the challenge, what you just touched on, Michael, is that you have to be natural and believable, right? Mm-hmm. But what you just said, it's sort of an elevated reality, because, and I just recently wrote about this, or at least mentioned it in a review I did, that otherwise it would put us to sleep. If it was like everyday reality, it would be very mundane, wouldn't it?
It is everyday reality, and many times in an everyday looking ordinary room, except that fourth wall is removed.
Right.
And although we try to be as naturalistic as possible. And if you look at actors talking about acting from the time of Edmund Kean, they always talk about being as natural as they can. That being said, they still need to be seen, they still need to be heard. Many times we mumble our words, we repeat ourselves, and it sounds natural, but it's harder to listen to, and it's not as interesting for the audience. So that's why we've got to heighten up the reality.
Right, heighten it, yeah. Well, I mean, a great example of what you just said is Marlon Brando, you know, where the legend is, right, when he was originally on Broadway, people in a balcony go, what is he talking about, right? But he was so intense and he was compelling at the same time. So
yeah, he must have been quite an impact on the world of theater and performance. And I think that we see it to this day. Many actors take after Marlon Brando with that very naturalistic form of acting, and I think it's effective, as is the Royal Shakespearean style of acting that we see, you know, both on the theater and then on stage and on screens, the small and large. It all works.
Right. And with yourself, my wife Elise likes to talk about, I mean, she loves watching, she doesn't do it herself, but you know, she'll call like the kids in high school the Dramaramas. were you a Dramarama in high school? Or?
I was. In fact, I met my wife Melinda on the stage when we were both in high school, and then we started dating in high school.
And where was that? Here in Westchester? Or
in Yorktown, New York.
What?
Yes.
Oh, and so you've been in Yorktown this whole time, right?
Well, I've moved back and forth, and as a result of being a professional actor, I've had an opportunity to live in a number of different states for short periods of time while working on productions. Right. And that's been a thrill in and of itself, because I think we have a very rich theatrical and performing arts and visual art community here in Westchester.
Yes.
But what surprised me, Bruce, was going around the country to places like Kentucky and Georgia, and Pennsylvania and New Jersey and a number of upstate New York. Yeah. It seems that no matter where you go, there's a need and people who are creating and fulfilling that need for theatrical performances.
Right.
In the smallest towns, they have these really large, wonderful theaters that are populated by the community, because people desire to see live performances. Even in a world such as ours, where you can see any movie that was ever made at any time at your fingertips, people want to see live performances.
And that's a really interesting point, just to touch on for a moment, which is it could go either way. It seems to me, where what you just said, I mean, increasingly we live in a, video suffused world. It's, it pervades everything, right? I mean, YouTube, now more and more people have heard this. YouTube, after Google, is the second biggest search engine that people, and it's owned by Google too. And now you have Amazon making movies and Netflix and things like that. So the interesting question is, the fact that people sit at home, like you said, they can watch anything, and they're watching more video. Does that take away from the viability of live theater or local theater, or, as you're alluding to, does it actually make people want to get out even more so, away from that cocoon?
That's an interesting question. Yeah. I have a theory. I don't know if I have the right answer. My theory is that because we can see any filmed product at any time in so many different ways, whether it's on your laptop or your netbook, or on your television screen, or in the big theaters, the difference between that and theater is that theater is ephemeral. You have to go to a particular place.
Right.
And when that performance is over, it's gone. There's only a short opportunity. And an additional difference is that by being there as an audience member, and I know you've seen this, the performance changes.
Yes.
We've done a number of performances that seem so radically different depending on who's watching the performance, because they really are a part of it.
Yeah.
And that's something really special. And I think whether you realize it or not, as an audience member, that's one of the things that you crave, to be part of that performance, which you are as an audience member. And you can only see it live, and when it's done, it's gone.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's a great point. That's what's part of the magic and the allure of live theater. Now, with Melinda, your beautiful wife, who I've been directed by, she's a great director, and I really like working with her. You have M&M right? Acting productions.
We've
Production
now
company.
formed a new company, M&M Performing Arts Company,
Okay.
Inc. And it's,
I
we're
guess
proud to
M&M
say,
is Melinda and Michael, right?
that's right, and it's in that
A
order.
wild guess. Right.
Melinda comes first, always.
Okay, right.
And we have just formed this new company, which is now a nonprofit 501c3 organization.
Right.
This M&M Performing Arts Company, Inc. We're now a public charity
Okay.
serving public purpose of providing live entertainment to our community.
No, and you do really a remarkable job that more people should know about. I mean, a lot of people do go to your productions, so I know you've been very successful with that. But like I've been telling people recently, I think one of the great contributions you make in the community is the library series of shows, for example, which are free. And they tour basically all the Westchester libraries. I mean, maybe not every show is in every library, but eventually your shows get to every library. I mean, I was fortunate to be in one of them, the Water Engine. And one of the things I liked about the experience is you, as an actor, actually, you get to learn to perform in every kind of space that different libraries happen to have, right?
It's a real challenge for the actors. For the audience, there's an opportunity to see really quality entertainment at no cost to the patron. The libraries pay us to pay the actors and to pay for the sets and for the rights, etc. And the audience gets to come in for free and see really professional quality productions, which is a terrific opportunity in their local, in their local library.
Right.
That's one thing that's really just like a wonderful thing for the audience. The other is you get very close to the actors.
Yes.
That's one of the challenges for the actors, as you know.
Yep.
If you're on a normal stage, you're sort of blinded by the lights. But in the library situation, you can see and hear the reactions of the audience members. So it brings really a visceral quality to acting, which is some people find very challenging. Another challenge for the actors, which is why we are able to do this, is that we cast these wonderful actors who have the flexibility to perform a particular play in different places. It's not easy, but one of the things it does, it sort of builds up the acting muscles.
Right.
If you've done a library series, you feel like you've done something that you can take to a different plane, a confidence about performing in different places. You may know the lines, you may know the blocking, but if the exit that you had in the previous place was on the left, and now the only way to go out is on the right, you've got to think on your feet. And that's something that I think helps actors become better actors, stronger actors, more flexible actors. That's what I found as an actor and as a director. That those difficulties are something that I think helps us to improve. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. That was when Melinda asked me to do the Water Engine, which is very flattering in itself. And I thought about it. I said, well, it's a big commitment because it can last, as you know, over various weekends in various locations, 2 months, 3 months. It bleeds over to a long span of time. And then I thought about what you just said, all those things you just said. I said, as somebody who's trying to learn this craft, like, what a great experience that's going to be. And it was. Like you said, you have to learn to adjust to being right on top of people and very, very tight spaces and things like that.
And one of the things I think that makes it work is we have a community of actors that really are highly skilled. The director of that, Floyd Gumble, a terrific director and excellent actor in his own right, so that it's not like you're going out on the high wire without a net. There is some assistance, hopefully, to help keep you on the right path.
Floyd was great to work with. I really enjoyed that. And then I just recently saw Painting Churches, which is a very well-known play by Tina Howe. And I was sort of tickled to see Casey Morabito, who everybody, or a lot of people know from WHUD as a very popular morning personality. And she's one of the actors in your stable, so to speak, that people can go and see. And I think it's exciting for people. They hear this voice on the radio, and then they go and see her in a library for free.
Right. It's what a wonderful treat it is for people who've enjoyed her show. on the radio, to be able to see what a terrific actress she is. She's just vibrant on stage. She's a wonderful actress and a pleasure to work with because of her professionalism and dedication. And she worked with two other very fine actors, Carol Egan and Kurt Lauer, under the very capable direction of Jim Petrillo. So that was one of the plays that we were very proud to have presented. It was also a play that I thought appealed to our audience in particular, in that it was about senior citizens and their children and some of the difficulties and challenges that they face in our world. We try to put on plays that are entertaining. Sometimes they'll make you laugh, but other times they'll make you think about your situation in life, or someone like yourself, or someone in your family or friends. And I think that's one of the things the theater does so well. Gives us those opportunities to think beyond our own world about the difficulties and challenges, and even in the harshest situations, the joys of life that we have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And another point just worth touching on is one of the great benefits I've found of doing this, especially on the on this local level in the Westchester area, northern Westchester, is the camaraderie among actors. Like you just named a few people, and once you start doing this, you start circulating among the same people, and you gain new friends, and I mean it's really nice. It's a social network, really. That's what it becomes.
Yes. Just like you said, like the stable of actors that you talked about. They're all a bunch of horses. No, it doesn't sound like. There's some fillies.
Let's talk about, Michael, about Lyndhurst.
Yes.
Which M&M, you and Melinda, have formed a really fruitful partnership, relationship with Lyndhurst and Tarrytown. You just finished for the sort of the Halloween season, Jay Gould's,
House of Curiosities.
House of Curiosities, right? And now you're going into, for the holiday season, something you've been doing for a few years now, Mr. Dickens, tells a Christmas Carol. And how many years have you been doing that?
This will be our third year at Lyndhurst. We're grateful to have the opportunity to perform at this National Historic Trust. It was originally built for one of the mayors of New York City, William Paulding. George Merritt then lived there, and the mansion was really made into the Gothic revival masterpiece that it is. When it was owned by Jay Gould. He was one of the robber barons of the 19th century.
Is that where Jay Gould comes from?
That's where
it's a takeoff. I never realized that.
It's a takeoff.
It is?
On Jay
Okay,
Gould.
I didn't realize that.
So yeah, we are thrilled to have the opportunity, because it is this beautiful, historic mansion, which is in phenomenal shape. We're able to perform inside the mansion, telling the Christmas Carol story. It's a timeless classic. People love it. I love it. I love seeing it, if it's not Bill Murray and Scrooge, or Alastair Sims in A Christmas
Reginald Owen, all those people.
Or, the Mr. Magoo version. It always works. It's a wonderful story. And I've seen it live on stage with Patrick Stewart and musical versions. I was even once in a Southern Christmas Carol, which Scrooge was a cotton gin owner. It was an interesting take with really great music. The story works time and again. Charles Dickens wrote a wonderful story, and what he did, which I think you'll find of interest, and what we were fascinated by, and something that we're trying to replicate. Charles Dickens in the 19th century would take his book and read it on a tour of the United States. Originally, he read the entire book. But he was a hammy actor, much like myself. And what he found was that 3 hours was a little bit too long for people to keep their attention focused. So he narrowed it down and kept much of the dialogue, reducing some of the description that he had. And my wife, Melinda O'Brien, and I once went to the New York Public Library and looked at his actual copy of his notes on his Christmas Carol book of what he cut out. And we tried to replicate that inside the mansion. Charles Dickens telling the story of A Christmas Carol. It starts out with me reading the book, and then I put the book down and start acting out the characters, much like he did in 19th century in America.
As we're going to see in a second, in full regalia, right?
Yeah.
And in the period dress, which is great. And we should do that. Why don't we take a look at that? Richard Redmond, our director, who always does a great job, is going to cue up just to give people a little taste of you as Charles Dickens at Lyndhurst.
Peace and goodwill to all men. Some have said I've written a story of one ill-willed man at war with himself. Let me begin my story now. Marley was dead. There is no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner, Scrooge. Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good upon anything he chose to put his hand to. Old Marley was dead as a doornail. I don't mean to say that I know of my own knowledge what there is particularly dead about a doornail. I might have been inclined myself to regard a coffin nail as the deadest piece of ironmongery in the trade. But by popular wisdom, you will permit me to repeat emphatically that Marley was dead as a doornail. Scrooge.
So anyhow, to see the full version, an hour of Michael as Charles Dickens, and as you can see, that really is very compelling. I mean, when we were watching it before, I mean, you really do a great job of just drawing people into it. And I mean, that's part of, again, of what theater does in acting. It transports people, right? It's escapism, you can call it, but it transports people to just a different world. You know, when it's done right, as you definitely do. And that's the other thing I want to mention is when I saw you with in Travels with My Aunt, the adaptation of the famous Graham Greene book, also at Lyndhurst, right? Which was that was in repertory with show people, right? Was
yes, that's correct.
Right. And I was just amazed at your facility with accents. I mean, really. I mean, but not only that, within the same like monologue. I mean, you played how many characters? Like 7, 8, 9? I don't know. It was a lot.
Yeah, there was a number of different characters.
You all played, yeah. I mean, it was you know, really virtuoso work on everybody's part. But you were switching accents almost mid-sentence, right? I mean, that's is that something that comes naturally to you, the facility with accents?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about, lad. I really don't.
But it's not something I have to worry about for you.
No, I don't think so. I think that's something every actor has. Everybody has the ability to change different characters. That's what I find most enjoyable about acting, is placing myself into somebody else's shoes, and I try to make their face different, their body different, their voice different, because we're all different. And I think that's a way to make the audience see the differences in the people themselves. Once you do that, the difficult part is then trying to get the emotional meaning behind the lines.
Right.
Like, don't let the accent or the body posture or some quirk cover up the meaning, because really all we're doing is we're telling a story.
Right. Yeah. And you know something, that's coincidentally you're talking about that. I'm now rehearsing with the Armonk Players for A Midsummer Night's Dream, which, by the way, is going to be a very unconventional interpretation.
Oh, it's a wonderful play.
Yeah, and there's choreography and there's music, pop music selections that people would never expect to be in a Shakespeare comedy. But I play Peter Quince, and just what you were saying, Michael, I've had the challenge, and again, I'm very, very much learning in the early stages of acting, of trying to project and say a monologue a certain way, and then reverting and saying, wait a minute, I have to first figure out what these lines mean and what the inflection and the emotion is before I worry about how I'm projecting it, or you know, it's just what you're saying. And so what does it mean?
Right.
Really, that's the other thing I tell people. It's, you know, acting is, I've learned myself and continue to learn, it's not mouthing dialogue. That's not what it is. You know, you're inhabiting somebody else.
Yeah.
And the dialogue is almost the byproduct of it. You know, it's right.
Yeah, and I think your point is a good one, where you're saying you're continuing to learn, because I think I still continue to learn. I think every actor worth his salt is always continuing to learn because it's one of those skills. You can always be better at it.
Yeah, and we were talking about something people may not realize is there's all different kinds of acting and all different opportunities for somebody such as yourself, a professional actor, which I am not. I hope maybe to be someday. And that is, you do other things that require acting skills, but may not be what people normally think of as being on a stage and doing the kind of shows we're talking about. In the business world, right? There's opportunities for actors.
There is, I think,
as well.
I think the skills of acting carry over often into a number of different places, whether it's a sales job or marketing or what have you, because the ability to convey the meaning is something that we always need to do. We always need to communicate, no matter what our work is.
Right. And we were talking about, along those same lines, the value as an actor, and certainly, let's say, as a salesperson, even if you're not a professional actor, of like improvisation, being able to, on the fly, create a conversation or respond to somebody, and as sales is, overcoming their objections or getting them to see things the way you want them to see them. Right?
Yeah, and what we try to do generally in improvisation is use the rule of yes and, rather than cutting down the conversation with a no matter how ridiculous something is. But when you do improvisational exercise, your next move is to say yes and to build on that.
Right. Right, and I was mentioning to you like how I have, to my surprise and delight, I've found that the very few auditions I've gone on, I am more comfortable with improvisation in auditions than necessarily being handed a script, and then you have to think about what do they want to hear from these words, which can be tricky, right? So, I mean, the one quick example I told you was when I went on the Starbucks audition for improvisation, and they said, when I got the call from, this woman who represents me, can you cry on cue? And I actually said to her on the phone, as a matter of fact, that is one thing I could do pretty well. I can cry on cue. And then I went into the Starbucks audition. It was about emotional connections at Starbucks. And they said, this is your son, the other actor, and now we want you to make him cry, and about a happy occasion. And so I just came up with something, and I'm hugging this guy I don't know, actually crying. And that's all part of the experience, right?
It is part of the experience. And part of the experience of being a professional actor, which is sort of unique, it's a job interview that goes on and on and on. Even successful actors, much more successful than you and I, are constantly looking for work.
Right.
It's a challenge in that way, in that you constantly are putting yourself forward, looking for approval from somebody else. What is it they're looking for? Sometimes they're not even able to communicate. We were talking about directors who ask you for something, they're not really sure. Well, I liked what you did, but could you do it different? I'm not sure how.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Is a direction. So you say, yes, I'll give that a try.
Right.
Not really
Well,
sure.
again, connecting it to other professions as an actor, like you said, especially on audition, you're selling yourself, right? You have to be a salesperson, right?
You have to be a salesperson, and it is a business.
Yeah, absolutely. So we ran out of time. I told you before, like it doesn't seem like 30 minutes. Somehow it's the magic of television at work. So quickly just tell people, for Mr. Dickens Tells a Christmas Carol, they can go to the Lyndhurst website to buy tickets?
They can go to lyndhurst.org. We begin it'll be running through the month of December. We'll have a number of performances, a couple each night, or Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and also a couple of days before the Christmas holidays. I just want to say thank you so much, Bruce, for being on this. I really appreciate
Michael
it.
Muldoon of M&M Performing Arts.
And Richard Redmond for directing.
Yes,
This has been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been fun. And, of course, the obvious thing for me to say is break a leg. And thank you for watching Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog and our guest Michael Muldoon. And remember, when Bruce the Blog listens, people talk. Thank you.
All men. Some have said I've written a story of one ill-willed man at war with himself. Let me begin my story now. Molly was dead. There is no doubt Whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner, Scrooge. Scrooge